Welcome to Crossroads. In today's episode, we'll be talking about Disease X, which is being discussed not only by the World Economic Forum, but also by the World Health Organization, introducing many new programs for us to live under. And also, as this happens, the Chinese Communist Party is coming out of left field with a brand new virus. This one has a 100% death rate within about a week. Let me explain, folks. Preparations for a so-called Disease X, these were among the discussions held at the 2024 World Economic Forum in Davos. And during the panel they had on this, global health authorities talked about setting up new plans and procedures to get ready for another global health crisis, another world pandemic. And among the panelists was the head of the World Health Organization himself, that's the WHO. And it's been trying notably to gain deeper authority to declare a global health crisis and also to get powers to set the policies that every single country on earth has to use in order to respond to these said health crises. And the warnings of another deadly disease just around the corner, well, they're now being used to justify the creation of more systems of authority and control all around our health. And of course, they say it's to protect us. Here's Tedros himself, the head of the World Economic Forum, on this. Let me show you.
Disease X is a placeholder for unknown disease. I just wanted to start by clarifying that because there is already a lot of attention. If I may, although COVID came immediately, we were preparing for COVID-like disease. You may even call COVID as the first Disease X. And it may happen again. Of course, there are some people who say, oh, this may create panic. No. It's better actually to anticipate something that may happen because it has happened in our history many times and prepare for it.
Now, just being clear, Disease X, it's technically the placeholder name they use for any kind of future unknown disease, and it's being used notably as the concept of how we prepare for the next pandemic. And look, this is the big kicker here. It's hard preparing for a health response with, things like vaccines and medicines, because how are you going to develop a vaccine if you don't have whatever virus or disease it is? How do you develop medicine for some unknown disease that we've never seen before, right? Because that's what Disease X is. It's an unknown outbreak. We've never seen it before. If it's a known disease going around, we typically have the ability to do something about it. They're talking about unknown. And again, the issue with that is, how do you prepare for it? Well, look, you cannot cure something that doesn't yet exist. So what are they actually referring to? When they talk about preparing for it, how do you prepare for it? Well, the preparations they're actually discussing, they're less on curing. In fact, they're hardly focused on that. What they're actually focused on with these preparations are creating new systems, protocols, infrastructures, surveillance technology, global powers, the whole 9 yards, to manage things under the narrative of a new virus, and of course around what we saw under COVID-19. These will be tools to track your vaccination status, to help force people to take vaccines where if you refuse, they might deny you basic services. Systems to enforce lockdowns to make sure that you're not escaping your home. Ways of making sure that all the average citizens are following all of the declared orders, like face masks and everything else. And of course, the many practices being forced on all of us. And part of this, at least from the World Health Organization, the WHO, is the push for the Global Pandemic Treaty. This is the tool to grant them global power over governments of the world, to crown Tedros king of the earth. And not all this is even directly about health, I should note. In fact, some of it is on tools for censorship and just normal surveillance. In fact, they're already putting these in place and, using the narrative of a global health threat. And bear in mind, too, when they talk about granting Tedros and the WHO these global powers to manage our health and everything, it's not even just about diseases. It's not even just about a virus. It could be about gun violence. It could be about For example, global warming. It can be about any narrative they want to use, because anything that affects your health can be then managed by them. Maybe race relations, DEI, trans policies. All of these could be deemed health issues, which they are in some regards. And because they're deemed health issues, they would fall under the power structure of Tedros, the WHO, with the World Economic Forum behind it, creating all the great technologies that we'll live under. And this is what they're doing right now as we speak. In fact, here's Tedros explaining it during the panel.
And there are still in systems and tools, there were weaknesses, as we all know, in surveillance, in sharing samples. And we have established the WHO BioHub to share samples and to improve surveillance. We have the pandemic intelligence, collaborative intelligence hub, which we established, and it's up and running now. It's in good shape. And there are other things we're doing. I don't want to bother you outlining everything. There are things we're doing with workforce, but the key is the capacity we build in each and every country. We're as strong as the weakest link.
Now, let me expand a bit on what Tedros is talking about, then we'll go deeper into this. What he's referring to is this. This is the actual World Health Organization website, and it talks about the WHO's hub for pandemic and epidemic intelligence. They're building an intelligence network. And they note it's working towards a world where collaborative surveillance empowers countries and communities to minimize the impact of pandemic and epidemic threats. It says collaborative surveillance, a key concept within WHO's framework to strengthen the global architecture for health emergency prevention, preparedness, response, and resilience, facilitates the systematic strengthening of capacity and collaboration among diverse stakeholders globally, both within and beyond the health sector, to enhance public health intelligence and improve evidence for decision making. Now, what does this actually mean? It means they've launched a global intelligence network that is not limited to health. As they note, it's not limited to, the health infrastructure. It goes beyond it. And this is a multi-stakeholder thing, meaning it's not even just governments, it's also private, individuals and businesses and everything else. Part of a system for global surveillance, infrastructure, the whole 9 yards to watch what we're doing. And remember that alongside the COVID pandemic narrative, if we go back in time, 2019, 2018, what was happening? The World Health Organization also declared a so-called infodemic, the information pandemic. And that narrative was used as a tool to push for global censorship. Remember, they were saying the problem was not just misinformation and disinformation or misleading information. The narrative was that there was too much information. And so they had to find ways to shut down the noise, make it so that only the authorities had the big, soapbox to stand on, and to try to silence or quiet down everybody else. And despite that massive effort, others at the front line of using pandemics to advance their own interests, they still cite to this day uncensored information, freedom of speech, as being the threat to their agenda, because it's led to things like vaccine hesitancy and so on. And now as well, there's a push for a pandemic accord to fight this quote-unquote disease X. And as all this happens as well, the Chinese Communist Party is creating a new deadly disease with what they say is a 100% death rate. Nothing survives it. I'll be talking about what exactly that entails, though, only on Epoch TV. So come join us on EpochTV.com, Epoch TV. And before we talk about all these new things, we have a new documentary out. It's the real story of January 6th, Part 2. Be sure to check it out. Link in the description, again, only on Epoch TV.
Calling the January 6th investigation the biggest investigation in FBI history.
There are more than 1,100 arrests, and they show no signs of slowing down.
When you take an oath, you have to abide by it.
They're just going to identify you on video, arrest you, and then figure out what the evidence is after that.
Those involved must be held accountable.
He's an innocent man, and he has been punished for something that he never did. Every day you wake up and you're like, how did I get out of bed today?
You have to stay away from the word patriot now because that's a terrorist organization.
We interviewed 2 whistleblowers from the FBI.
I sacrificed my dream job to share this information with the American people.
That siege was criminal behavior, plain and simple, and it's behavior that we, the FBI, view as domestic terrorism.
We started with death threats, the hate mail.
I don't care what they do to me, but I do care what they do to my family.
Our family struggles every day.
It's going to change narratives no matter what your political perspective is.